nature, things of that 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 nature.
And what's going on? Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome into the Pod of That Nature pregame show because we are getting ready for Arkansas and Oklahoma State, 11 a.m. Saturday morning in Stillwater. I'm with Andrew Ellis. I am Curtis Wilkerson. My man, this time tomorrow, we'll be pulling up in enemy territory. Are you excited about this trip?
That is really exciting now that you put it that way, that we're like in 24 hours, we'll be doing that. That is exciting. And hey, credit to you for getting the names right. You are Curtis Wilkerson and I am Andrew Ellis. That was pretty good.
That's right. Yeah, I was happy to see that John messed up his little outro the last time that we were on Inside Arkansas Live, because that's actually a mouthful when you're speaking for three different people. You know, sometimes you just get that mixed up a little bit. It happens, but I think that we're both on the same page here, and we feel absolutely locked in and dialed in for this game. We're excited. So, no, for anyone who's tuning in now, going, hey man, they've been talking about this Oklahoma State game all week. Is this just going to be the same thing? No, it's not. We're differentiating it a little bit. Pod of That Nature is a little bit different than Inside Arkansas Live. Inside Arkansas Live, man, we talk about a little bit of everything. Obviously, we dive into the games. We get a little bit more into the weeds on Pod of That Nature here. So we're going to have some preview type shows before every game where we talk about some of the things you see here, the position battles that matter in these games. We're gonna call out some of these Razorbacks. We're gonna issue some challenges, bold predictions, just some fun stuff leading us up into the game. Then obviously we run it back afterwards after our post game show, and we hand out some grades, and we'll probably hold ourselves accountable for the things that we say right here. Some of which I'm sure will be absolutely wrong. So Andrew, let's hop right into it, man. What do you say?
Well, Curtis, if we're starting right at the top with the position battles, everyone's been talking about the Ollie Gordon stuff, and obviously Ollie Gordon, maybe the best player in the country. According to the video game, he's the second best player in the country, which is quite notable. And Arkansas certainly has their hands full with this matchup and this battle, but I'm not going to look there for my first kind of what does Arkansas need to do in this game. So, Curtis, I look back, the three games that Oklahoma State lost last year in the regular season, I should say. The first one was South Alabama, where Alan Bowman went 6 for 12, 42 yards and a pick. Obviously, he came off the bench in that game. I think they rotated three quarterbacks in that game, so not a great representation. But the next game they lost is Iowa State. Bowman goes 23 for 48, 278, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. The next game they lost was UCF on the road, kind of came out of nowhere. He goes 19 for 36 with 3 picks. The common denominator is when Oklahoma State got consistent quarterback play, they pretty much won a lot. They rattled off 7 straight wins there in the middle of the year. I actually think not slowing down Alan Bowman, but I think that matchup with the wide receivers that we've talked about, and Curtis, as you know, we watched the video game simulation, got a little out of hand there lately. I forgot the guy's name, Rashad something.
Rashad Owens.
Touchdown pass, the guy that we're supposed to be looking out for. But we've talked about it a good bit, how we didn't feel like this Arkansas secondary was tested last week against UAPB, which we didn't expect them to be tested. There's no issue with that. That's not a knock on them, but it's still a little bit of a, hey, are we sure this position group? Because it's weird, Curtis. 6 months ago, I would have told you, yeah, Curtis, Arkansas secondary is going to be great. And their front seven, a little shaky. I've now not completely flipped, but I'm feeling a little bit more confident about that linebacker room that seems to be flying around, has 3 or 4 really good options. The D-line, at least the front unit, the starting 5-6 guys, I feel pretty good about them. The secondary, there's a little bit more unknown now. Even though the group has options and the group has depth, they have about 8 or 9 guys they'll rotate in, feel good about. But I think this is a very big matchup for them to kind of show where they're at. And we'll learn a lot about them. And I think that matchup, they cannot allow Alan Bowman to be efficient, frankly. Now, if you look at his career numbers, he's had plenty of inefficiency. And it's not like he's this superstar quarterback that Arkansas's got to really be super worried about. But you look at what he did last week. He really allowed Oklahoma State to settle into the game and get Ollie Gordon going and kind of take their time getting the run game going because of how efficient he was. He took care of the ball, didn't turn the ball over, completed like 70-something% of his passes. Arkansas can't afford for him to be picking them apart like that, getting the ball out quick, not being affected by the pass rush. I really think winning that matchup and limiting Oklahoma State in the passing game is actually the most important thing here. Now, I'm not saying they can let Ollie Gordon run wild, but I don't view it as one of those things where, like, oh, if Ollie Gordon runs for 100 yards, Arkansas's toast. Because I think if you're talking about a shootout, which I kind of think this game's going to be, how often do you see shootouts won by teams that are just going to run the ball like crazy? I mean, Arkansas in 2007 did it against LSU, but it's not really something you expect to happen. So I actually think Arkansas secondary needs to win their position battle with these receivers, and that's one of the more important things in this game.
Yeah, and I think Oklahoma State is going to force feed Ollie Gordon anyway. So like it's I don't like that cliche of, well, he's going to get his, but he's going to get his touches. I mean, he's going to touch it, whether it's a handoff or dump it off to him out of the backfield 30 times. I mean, that's their goal. So I agree. You know, if you take away the rest of it, that makes it more complicated for them. I like everything you said. I posted a story last night on InsideArkansas.com, just like the 3 musts for Arkansas. And the first one that I put was that Arkansas must have the cleaner quarterback at the end of the game. And I meant that in 2 different ways. One, like I think Taylor Green needs to have a cleaner jersey than Alan Bowman at the end of that game, because Bowman does not respond well to pressure. He gets happy feet in there. He doesn't feel pressure well. And that's when he starts making mistakes. Now, the flip side is to that, he gets that ball out quick before you can get to him. And that's why Oklahoma State allowed, I think, the 8th fewest sacks in the country last season. They've got that offensive line returning, but you're 100% right with these defensive backs. This is a huge prove-it game type of opportunity for those guys. And quite frankly, if Arkansas can handle some man coverage on the outside, it then gives you the ability to feel comfortable stacking the box a little bit against Ollie Gordon to prevent some of those huge chunk plays that he can get on the ground. So I agree, man. I think that's a huge part to this. That was one of the position battles that I had listed there. And you know, I think it's, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'll get back to, I was going to talk about the trenches in a second. We'll get to that, because that's a position battle in every game that you want to win, right? I mean, we understand that. But I will take the Ollie Gordon factor a little bit here, and basically just put it as him and the running backs for Oklahoma State, maybe against the linebackers there for Arkansas, because we've heard a lot, like you were mentioning, in the spring to now, we were so concerned about that linebacker room, and then the narrative just completely flipped throughout all of fall camp to where it was, no, actually, we went out and got some dudes at linebacker in the offseason, and we feel really good about the depth we have here. We feel like this is one of our strongest position groups on defense. Okay, and then the same situation, those guys weren't challenged against UAPB. Nobody on the field was. So we don't really know. I tell you what, if you can bottle up Ollie Gordon a little bit, not completely shut him down, but if he's not breaking 13 tackles on the second level like he did against South Dakota State, I feel a hell of a lot better about what this room is capable of getting into the rest of the schedule and the meat of SEC play. So I'm going to be very, very interested to see who kind of steps up on that second level, whether it's Xavier Sorey or Brad Spence or both, or some of those other guys like Dix or Switzer, whoever they have in there. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. If you can tackle Ollie Gordon, you can tackle anybody. So I'm going to be very interested to see that. But obviously we got to talk about the trenches, Andrew, because, and I'm interested to get your take on this, which is more important to you? Which do you think was more of a key to you? Is it Arkansas's O-line versus Arkansas's defensive front, or is it Arkansas's D-line versus Oklahoma State's offensive front? Because you've got a ton of experience on that Oklahoma State offensive line versus we don't know necessarily about the depth on the D-line. And then the flip side, it's very much an unknown for Arkansas on that offensive line. Just a huge, huge key to the season against an Oklahoma State defensive front that they're not going to be as big and powerful as SEC opponents, but they got some talent over there on that side of the ball.
Yeah, so it's interesting where, like, I really do think, I'm not saying Arkansas's D-line, it doesn't matter, but we talk about how quickly Alan Bowman gets the ball out and how they have a running back who misses tackles a lot, or forces missed tackles, I should say. And I'm not saying that the D-line just, it doesn't matter, but I think I'm looking more at the Arkansas offensive line. Curtis, you've got a quarterback in Taylor Green who's going into what should be a pretty hostile environment. His first, not SEC road game, but like marquee road game at a Power 5 level as a starting quarterback. I think you got to do everything you can to make things easy on him. And our colleague John Neighbors has gone with the bold prediction of Jaquinton Jackson is going to outgain Ollie Gordon. I don't know if that even necessarily has to happen, but I do think Arkansas has to be winning those battles up front and making things as easy on Taylor Green as they can. I think getting the run game would be ideal, obviously, giving him time to operate, giving him time to use his athleticism, move around and do whatever he's got to do. I think that's of the utmost important. And I really just, it comes back to, I've said it a lot, Curtis, but I expect this to be a back and forth, high scoring game. And it's just really not fun being in that position when you're an offense and you don't trust your guys up front. You don't know how much time you have to operate, especially if you get behind in the game. That defense is able to really pin their ears back and get after you, rush the passer a little bit. So this offensive line, who knows how it'll play out? Maybe Arkansas will just get up early and not have to worry about it. But I think they need to be prepared. And obviously you're missing Patrick Kudus, who missed week 1. So it's at this point, it's no longer like as much of a concern because it's just going on. But I think, this is another huge test for Marion Harris. Huge test, frankly, for Carmona and Blackstock and some of these other guys in that Addison Nichols who are, have not played a ton at this level. Carmona's an all-conference guy at the Mountain West level, and Addison Nichols played sparingly there at Tennessee. But it's not like these guys are the most proven stalwarts either. We're not 100% sure what we have in this Arkansas offensive line. And so, look, I think we're optimistic about a lot of these position groups, but this is a big test for us to kind of figure out what's going on. And so I think, the biggest thing from last year to this year, if we're talking about what's going to be an improvement for Arkansas, it has to start on that offensive line. I think if the offensive line goes out there and creates some holes in the run game, doesn't allow Taylor Green to face too much pressure, I think it would make me feel a lot better about this offense, big picture. And I think it would give them a good chance to keep up in what is expected to be a little bit of a track meet. And so I think I'm going with the offensive line just by a hair.
Yeah, I like that. It's going to be, I think it's just exactly what we need to see. I feel like I'm going to say this probably a dozen times and however long we're on this podcast this morning, but it's just a needed test. Like this is the game where we are going to learn a lot about Arkansas. And there's some truth to the idea of, if you can't get push, if you can't keep your quarterback clean against Oklahoma State, no disrespect, because I think they're a very good team. But that's probably the first red flag that this might be a struggle as you get into the meat of the schedule here. But yeah, I'm very, very interested to see how does Carmona handle, an edge rusher like Colin Oliver there at Oklahoma State. You mentioned Addison Nichols. How does he hold up against former Razorback Colin Clay, who's just a very, very solid defensive lineman? And then I think we're going to get a good feel for, just kind of the chemistry, the continuity, how those guys are operating as a full unit. Because one thing about Oklahoma State is they have very, very good linebackers. Especially their top two, maybe the best in the Big 12. Those guys are really, really solid, and they do different things with them. They'll mix it up a little bit. So how in sync is this Eric Mateos unit, in week 2 of the season? So it's going to be a really good barometer for those guys, I think. Excuse me. And then on the, on the defensive front, this is, I think this is going to be a good challenge for Arkansas's depth, I think is what I would say. I think we all agree that we feel good about, like you said, that front group, the starting 4 across, whatever. But then once you get into the weeds a little bit, how effective can you be, especially a defensive tackle? Oklahoma State, the thing about them, we've heard it over and over and over. Everybody on that offensive line is in their 6th year of college football. Their average age is like 24 years old. They've all got 40 plus starts. And then they've got 2 guys rotating in off the bench who are, seniors at tackle and transfers who have a ton of experience too. So there's a lot of depth and a lot of continuity. And how does Arkansas handle that? And then once we get deeper into the game where you got to get into your rotations a little bit more, how does an Ian Jaffard, hop in there and clog things up for Ollie Gordon or a Danny Saili? Because you're going to have to utilize those guys. And then it's not just about getting to the quarterback for those edge rushers. How does, I don't know, pick any defensive end that you might throw in there. Quincy Rhodes, for example, can he set the edge in this game? So it's just going to be a good barometer and something to really keep an eye on there in the trenches for sure. Andrew, let's move on from the position battles and get a little bit more specific, because I think every game I like to just really look at the matchups and go, okay, this guy really needs to step up for Arkansas to win this game. And it's a team game, but you need individuals to step up and have big performances. So let's issue some challenges to some Razorbacks here that we think are going to be key to the operation. I'll start and then I'll let you rattle off a little bit. For me, because I wanted to piggyback off of what you led off with in your position battles in that secondary. I'm issuing a challenge to Cuddy, man, Marquise Robinson, because you provided some bulletin board material to Oklahoma State with some of those comments, and they were lighthearted, obviously, in the fall. But we all know that he was a part of South Alabama's just weird blowout win at Oklahoma State last season, had an interception in that game. And he's, kind of preaching about some domination and everything like that. Well, to your point about Arkansas secondary, where there's a lot of bodies, but we're trying to determine who the dudes are. Arkansas needs Marquise Robinson to be a dude opposite of Jalen Braxton, because I'm just not, I understand we like our depth there, but I'm just not going to be on board with Arkansas all of a sudden has 5 corners that they feel like can go out there and be, big contributors in the SEC. I'm just not buying it, especially when 2 of them were on your team last year and they really, really struggled. Well, now you've got this transfer in Robinson, who's kind of emerged. It seems like he's starting to get a decent grip on that starting spot opposite of Braxton. But can he make this his position and not necessarily, a 3-man rotation, a carousel over there at cornerback? And it starts with an Oklahoma State team who we mentioned. They've got, Presley, Owens. They've got some guys there who are good receivers, and they're also hard to tackle. They're slippery, man. And it's going to be a big, big emphasis for Arkansas. So can he lock down that other half of the field? If he can, then again, it takes away an element of Oklahoma State and it makes him a little bit more one-dimensional. So that's my first challenge, I think, is going to go to Cuddy.
Yeah, if Cuddy gives up a touchdown on Marquise Robinson, there's going to be a lot of Oklahoma State fans dunking on him, going crazy. This isn't last year. This isn't South Alabama. They're waiting. They're really upset. Those poor podcast hosts were about to cry after seeing his comments, bro. Like, that was crazy.
What was he saying? They got me teed up.
Yeah, they were like, this disrespectful to the receivers. Disrespectful. Which, like, come on, it's not that serious. But I'm going to issue a lighthearted challenge to Andrew Armstrong.
I like it.
Play some football this weekend. Let's see you out there. And I'm not trying to make light of an injury. I'm really mostly just kidding. But it would really be nice to see Andrew Armstrong get out there. I think it seems like it's trending in that direction, that he's going to at least be somewhat available, whether it's 100%, 75, who knows. But it would be really nice. And I spoke about it the other day on the other day show, that I feel like it would be more of just a morale boost and a presenting challenges to the Oklahoma State defense, more so than Arkansas needs Andrew Armstrong, or they need their top wide receiver, because I think they've got guys they feel confident about. And I don't know if it's going to move the needle that much, especially if he's not 100% healthy. But I feel like it would be a nice little confidence boost for Taylor Green to have his top guy there, and just the offense. I mean, he might be the most proven player on the entire offense. So having a guy with some street cred, out there to warrant some coverage, warrant a double team, warrant whatever. I think that would be beneficial to the Hogs. But, I mean, I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit here, Curtis. I'm issuing a challenge to Taylor Green.
Sure.
You're QB1. You transferred to Arkansas for this reason. You want to play in these big games. You had a nice little debut. Everyone's kind of buzzing. They forgot about those first few passes. You're going on Feinbaum. You kind of caught some attention, made some waves in week 1. I think, this is your time to prove that you're not the 42nd best Power 5 quarterback, or whatever it was that they rated you, or the 11th best SEC quarterback, 12th best. Taylor, this is a big moment for you, man. And it's not all on Taylor Green. It's not like, hey, we need you to go out there and 400 yards. We need you to go crazy. Just be that signal caller, be that field general, be the guy who gets the ball out quick, super decisive. Show us some of the stuff that we saw in the spring. Go out there and sling it with confidence. Be a problem to tackle on the edge. You mentioned his jersey being clean. I think his jersey is going to be dirtier, Curtis, because I think he's going to be out and about running the ball. And I don't think Alan Bowman's going to be doing too much of that.
Oh, man, I think you're probably right. I just hope he just step out of bounds, man. Don't try to cut it back across the field against Oklahoma State. I don't know. It's like the battered hog thing. Just don't get hurt, man. Protect yourself, brother. I feel you, though. You're right.
He's a big guy. He's 6'6", 210, 215, but
he's a grown man.
I don't know if he needs to be taking too many of those thumps from SEC linebackers. But yeah, we're issuing a lot of challenges to Taylor Green. But just be smart, take care of the football. You don't have to be anything other than who you are, which is an athletic, rangy, talented quarterback that Bobby Petrino handpicked for this offense. Just go out there and run the offense, man. Don't do anything stupid. And I think if the version of Taylor Green that we think is possible, the version that we saw last week, frankly, and that we saw in the spring game, just the kind of version of him that's playing with confidence, taking care of the ball, mostly accurate. I think Arkansas is going to have a very good chance to win.
Yeah, I like that. I've got two more that I'll throw out here. One, issue a little bit of a challenge to Landon Jackson. It was a very, very quiet debut against UAPB, and again, whatever. That was just a weird game, and he didn't play a ton of snaps, and he shouldn't have. But that's really going to ramp up this week against Oklahoma State. I'm not saying that he has to go out there and repeat the performance against Alabama last year. We had 3 or 3.5 sacks in that game, but make your presence felt, because he came back, Landon Jackson, first team All SEC guy, a ton of hype, a ton of pub about him. Really the anchor and a leader on that defense. Be disruptive, man. Make your presence felt. Make a life hard on that offensive line. Make Bowman uncomfortable in there in the pocket. I think it's time for Landon Jackson to go from, the idea and the potential to the reality. And we've seen it in flashes, but he even talked about it throughout the course of camp, that the biggest thing for him was wanting to become more consistently dominant. And he's got all the tools to do that. He's an absolute freak of nature in every sense of the word. So I would love to see Landon Jackson really, really have, I don't even want to call it a vintage performance, but maybe lay the foundation for what will be vintage performances to come. And it's a great opportunity for him to do that. And my other one, I don't necessarily want to give it to the player, because I don't know that it's on him. Am I allowed to issue a challenge to Bobby Petrino? Can I do that?
Yeah.
Not to question the man,
Razorback.
but we were doing that video game simulation last night. And right away, Bobby P's dialing it up on the game. He's getting Isaiah Satania involved right away. Force the issue, get that kid going, just make it happen. I'm thinking back to the opener, and Taylon Green would go to Tyrone Broden on back-to-back plays. If he missed him, he was going right back to him again. Do that with Satania, man. I don't care what it looks like. Hit him on a slant, use his speed, get him over the top, jet sweeps. I don't care. But I would love to see them make a concerted effort to get Isaiah Satania established into this game early on, because he's such a dynamic weapon. And I'm not going to lie to you. I was in it, whatever, they spread the wealth. They won 70-0. Okay. But the fact that he finished that game, with the numbers that he did, and there were long stretches where I was going, is Satania out there? It gave me weird flashbacks to last season. I want him to be great. I really do. Bad. I want this to be the breakout, because it's another situation where it's like, I'm tired of, daydreaming about the idea and the potential of what something could be. I'm ready to see it, man. And so I would love for this to be a Petrino going, you know what? This is one of my guys. We're going to feed the studs, right? And make him one of your studs.
Yeah, I really hope we're not still doing this Isaiah Satania conversation in week 7, 8, 9 of, oh man, they got to get him going. They got to get him going. We all know it's there. Like, it's one of the most bizarre things. Like, I know TJ Hammonds is kind of the joke that we all reference of, like, when our Razorback fans were all kind of clamoring, but it's like, it really is kind of getting to that point where it's like, we all know that how talented this guy is. We know what he can do with the ball in his hands. Like, I don't know. I would put the ball in his hands if it were up to me. And I'm not really too worried about them not getting him the ball a ton against UAPB, because they're spreading it around. No need to use all your weapons. And I think there is something to be said about not showing your hand too much. And I think Isaiah Satania hopefully is a huge part of that. While we're over here issuing challenges, Luke has Oklahoma guy. If Andrew Armstrong's not there, especially, let's be a dude here. You're an NFL guy, and typically speaking, guys who play in the NFL are pretty dominant in college, and you kind of can tell early in their career. So even as a true sophomore in what will be like his 7th career game, it's not asking too much for us to expect him to be really good in these games, and I think he will be. I
think so too. Yeah, and for the sake of the people of Arkansas taking Saracen's money, it would be nice to see Luke have a game there, because absolutely, I ain't promoted now, but absolutely love the prop there that they've got for him. I think it's over 4.5 receptions, over 49.5 yards at plus 260. Come on now.
That's got to be easy money. I mean, especially if Andrew Armstrong's not available. If Armstrong's available, I still think it's very much in play.
Oh yeah, he's a road warrior, Luke has. So that's a good spot for him here. So, okay, let's move on to the last segment here and talk some bold predictions for this game. Arkansas in Stillwater against a top 20 opponent. Weirdly, I shouldn't say weirdly, oddly confident maybe for a team that's an underdog against a ranked opponent on the road, but that's what the life in the SEC will do for you. You feel good about your chances going down there. What's on your mind, man? Like, is there anything that's kind of struck you or maybe a little outside the box or whatever that you're thinking, you know what, I could see this happening?
Yes, and I've kind of been planting the seeds for it here the last couple days on Inside Arkansas Live. Curtis, I think Talon Green is going to cross the 3-century mark in the passing department in this game. We looked at his numbers if you look at his numbers at Boise State, this is a really bold prediction because he really never threw the ball. Now, there were a lot of games at Boise State where he was throwing the ball, 25, 26 times, 18 times and stuff like that. I'm not saying that this isn't a bold prediction, but I do think it's in play here. And I also think if Arkansas falls behind at any point in this game, it's obviously going to need, something like Talon Green stepping up and throwing a ton. And, Arkansas threw the ball. What they throw the ball 39 times yet last week in what was a blowout. You know what I mean? So that makes me feel like this offense is going to be pretty pass happy, and it's not going to be all airing it down the field. But I do think throwing the ball and getting the ball to the edge to some of these playmakers like an Isaiah Satania, like a Rodney Hill even, like it doesn't have to all be downfield bombs, but I do think that Taylor needs to be getting the ball out of his hand quick. I think Arkansas is going to be throwing the ball early and often. I could see upwards of like 35, 40 pass attempts for him in this game, frankly. I think it's that type of game where it's going to get a little crazy, be a track meet. And I think you need your quarterback to be ready to match whatever that other quarterback does. And I'm not saying Alan Bowman's going to throw for 300 yards as well, but I do think Arkansas is going to need to be scoring. They're going to be aggressive offensively. And I do see Talon Green throwing for 300 yards. Now, I will say, I'm counting on Andrew Armstrong playing at least a little bit and accounting for maybe 50 or 60 of these yards. But I think Arkansas, I'm not saying they're going to need 300, but I think it's going to be a high scoring game. And I think Talon Green is going to rise to the occasion to an extent, at least. And frankly, while I'm going to make the case for it not being super bold, if you don't think Arkansas is going to win and you think Oklahoma State's going to score 42 on them, then Talon's probably going to end up throwing like 45 passes just trying to get Arkansas back in the game, in which case we've seen quarterbacks before throw for 300 where it wasn't even that great of a performance. I think that's kind of in play. But I think Talon Green, it would be, I think, his second career 300-yard passing game. And I think it would be quite the statement where people realize like, oh, okay, like Arkansas really does. They're going to air it out with this quarterback. Like Bobby P, it is what it is. If Bobby P can have Casey Dick throw for 300 like 5 or 6 times in his senior year, Talon Green can throw for 3 bills against Oklahoma State, right?
Yeah, of course. Why not? And you're right. Yeah, Talon did not throw for 300 in a game last season at Boise State, but his first year as a full-time starter a couple years ago, he did. I believe it was against Colorado State. And so he's done it before, and it would be awesome if he did it again. I'd love it if he was slinging that thing all over the field. For me, and I don't know, like every game you kind of look at very specific things, and they're always keys. It's like, penalties, turnovers, whatever. And so it's a little bit cliche here, but my bold prediction is that at the end of the game, independent of who wins, we're going to look back and there's going to be one big play, impact play that completely changes the trajectory of the game on special teams. And I don't know what that's going to be. Now, I look in the return game and I see Isaiah Satania for Arkansas. Oklahoma State's got some pretty dynamic guys back there as well. So it could be something like that. It wouldn't surprise me, but I have a feeling this is going to be a shootout. It's going to be a back and forth. And sometimes it's a turnover that completely shifts the momentum, and that's the difference in the game. I think it's going to come on special teams, and maybe it's something weird where Sam Pittman, and old Scott Fountain, they go back to the well with the trickeration there. Maybe it's one of those nightmare flashbacks of Arkansas getting a freaking punt blocked that we saw. I feel like every other game for a couple years. I don't know what it's going to be, but I do think when it's all said and done, I have this as a 1-score game. And either way, I think we're going to look back at it and we're going to be in that post game at Eskimo Joe's and we're going to be like, special team. Wow. Yeah, there it is. Special teams. There you go. That was the third phase of the game matters. And so I'm going to be anxious to see what that's going to be. I don't know if it's because of the simulation we did last night where Arkansas took a safety on a punt and it cost them the game. Maybe that's just where I was like, oh boy, that seems so realistic, like such an Arkansas thing to happen that's probably going to be the case again on Saturday. But that's kind of where I'm at there. My other, I don't know how bold of a prediction this actually is. But I do think that we're going to look up at the end of the game and Rashad Dubinion is going to be second on this team in carries behind
I like
Jaquan
that.
Jackson. Yeah.
I mean, I'm with you, and I'm not buying that Rashad Dubinion is RB4. And by the way, we've cited this video game simulation a lot. I'm sure there's some people that are like, "What the hell are y'all talking about, guys?" Last night on Thursday night, while the NFL season was kicking off, Curtis and John and I got together and we watched a simulation, which you can see on our YouTube channel. We went live. We watched a simulation of the college football 25 video game of these two teams playing, and I would not highly recommend watching it because it ended pretty sourly. Arkansas blowing a fourth quarter lead, but we had a lot of fun kind of mixing it up and giving some comments about what we think this game is going to be. But I should mention Rashad Dubinion was quite the factor in that game. I thought he might have been the best back Arkansas had on the video game yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, he was a weapon in there for sure. And if there are any Oklahoma State fans who are watching or listening, and we've had a lot of them over the course of the week, and honestly, appreciate that because I love it. Like I listen to other, upcoming opponents and their shows and podcasts or whatever. I enjoy that. So I appreciate when people tune into us. If you just want a little bit of an idea of what life is like for a Razorback fan, go back to our YouTube Inside Arkansas, pull up that simulation and just skip the first 3 quarters, really. Take it to the very end of the third quarter and just watch about the last 10 minutes of the simulation, and you will see exactly what it feels like to be a Razorback fan and why people talk about battered hog syndrome. It's all true, and it transitions from reality to simulations. We can't escape it. It's unreal.
Well, and also if you want to see 3 bozos eat their words, because if you don't like us and you're like, man, these idiots, man, I want to see them really have to pay. Well, we had to pay in real time last night. We were getting a little cocky, and oh man, it happened so quick, man. It happened quick, but yeah, Curtis, for my bold prediction, you mentioned the special teams. I'm going to go not special teams, but a little bit kind of in that area, kind of adjacent. I think Arkansas is going to force not 1, not 2, Curtis, 3 turnovers in this game.
Okay.
I think they're going to give the ball up at least once or twice as well. But I think Travis Williams and his defense, they like to create havoc. That's one of the best things they did last year, scoring 5 defensive touchdowns. They really like to force those big plays. They're very aggressive. I mean, going back to his days at UCF when they would just be cover 0 blitzing folks, I think they're going to be getting creative with how they can get pressure on Alan Bowman. I think they're going to be able to get him to cough that ball up, whether it's by air or by land. I think he's going to cough that ball up at least once or twice. I think Arkansas is going to force 3 turnovers, maybe a little strip of Ollie Gordon, maybe Alan Bowman strip sack, throws 2 picks. He's not above throwing picks. He threw 14 last year, and it seemed to kind of like come in bunches. Like he had 6 games last year where he did not throw a pick, but he also had 5 multi-pick games. So it's like a weird thing where it's like it kind of comes in bunches with him, and it's like matchup dependent. I think Arkansas is going to be able to, maybe not get consistent pressure because he does like to get the ball out quickly, but I think they're going to be able to time some of, we're getting it out and we're going here. We're getting it out, we're going here. I think they're going to be able to maybe jump some of those routes. And it seems like, at least according to Marquise Robinson, that they know the entire playbook. They've got that sucker memorized. And so, I don't know how much of an actual factor in the game this is. I don't know if Marquise Robinson is just, the next Connor Stallions. We'll see. But I do think a few Arkansas Razorbacks in that secondary, they're getting greedy a little bit. They want them a pick. I'm not going to predict who will get it. I thought about throwing Hat Trick Huddy's name out there. Jalen Braxton had an interception in the simulation last night, so let's go with him. I think he'll get an interception, but I do think Arkansas is going to force 3 turnovers, and that is going to be a huge reason why they win the game, Curtis.
There we go. I like it a lot, man. We've got some things on the line for this game. If Arkansas wins exactly 41-17, I have to wear a singlet to the UAB game.
UAB game, yeah.
Weekend. And then if they went, because listen, I've been the guy in this operation who's been, I think, the most resistant to sipping the Kool-Aid by design. And like I said last night on the simulation, if Arkansas does win this game, and listen, I've got Arkansas covering. I have them losing a 1-score game because I'm not going to stray off of what I picked in the preseason just because I liked what I saw against UAPB. But I might be like, 51-49 this game. Like I would not be surprised at all. And I'd be very pleased if Arkansas wins. If they do, then I'm taking a Kool-Aid packet to the dome at Eskimo Joe's for the post game. No water. We're just dry heaving the powder. So those are a couple things that I have on the line. I seem to always put myself in this position. And I've noticed that you guys don't do that too much because you are intelligent.
Well, yeah, frankly. Yeah, I think also you should snort the Kool-Aid. Just full on.
Oh, woo.
See what that's like. See if that tears it up.
If they win
no,
41-17, I might have to.
For anybody who's actually upset at Curtis for picking Oklahoma State to win the game by like 3 points or whatever it is, you shouldn't be. And also, I think y'all just need to understand the optics of if an Arkansas site unanimously picks Arkansas to win a game that they're 8-point underdogs in, makes us look a little cheap. I'm not saying we put a gun to his head and forced him to make that prediction, but it's like, would you rather us be the just sunshine company of the week? Like, I don't know. We have to be a little bit.
We're not company men here.
Yeah, right. And look, then you get to yell at them after the game if they win. So it's like a win-win for everyone. But yeah, it's going to be interesting, man. But I'm trying to think if I had any like random off the wall predictions. Hey, I mentioned Luke Has earlier, and I saw someone in our chat predicted him to go for like 8 catches, 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns or something like that. I do think he is going to lead Arkansas in receiving in this game, with or without Andrew Armstrong. I'll even say that. I think even if Andrew Armstrong comes and plays and catches 4 or 5 passes, I do think Luke Has is going to have 75 plus yards, and he's going to lead the way through the passing game. And I think he is kind of the key to this match, to really any matchup for Arkansas. If like they're going to put pressure on opposing defenses. We talked on the show the other day about who would you go to, a less than a minute left and you're kind of getting towards the red zone. You need a touchdown. Who are you going to? I think Luke Has is like built in a lab to be a mismatch. And so I think that's my last bold prediction is Luke Has leads Arkansas in receiving. And I don't know how bold that is.
I like that one. I'll throw a final one out there just because I just remembered it from the show yesterday. What can Brown do for you? We kind of called our shot, Andrew and I. Arkansas will have a touchdown scored by a man with the last name of Brown, whether that's freshman receiver CJ Brown or transfer receiver Shaffery Brown. One of the two is going to come up with it. And like Andrew said, CJ should have had his first touchdown reception against UAPB, but Taylor Green sold him. So got to make up for that. Get the man the ball. Look for him down there.
Yeah, I will say, man, it's going to be very interesting where we still really don't know for a long time, like what this offense, like who the actual go-to guys are. I mean, we think we have an idea. I think Tyrone Broden, we've got a decent idea. They're going to throw it to him a good bit with or without Andrew Armstrong. But, we mentioned Satania only had 1 or 2 targets. CJ Brown had 1 target that should have been a touchdown. We expect him to be in the mix. They threw to Jordan Anthony a ton. Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. I mean, it seems like they really like him, and it seems like he's emerged in that offense in Andrew Armstrong's absence. But, last week it's tough to really tell with the breakdown because the starters only played 1 half. They were rotating guys, like even from like midway through the second quarter, they started really rotating guys offensively. Will they rotate that much in Stillwater? Will it be more of just, hey, maybe 4 or 5 receivers that get all the looks? How will the running back distribution go? And so there's a lot of unanswered questions that I feel like we're going to not get definitive answers on this week, but it could look completely different than what we expect. I mean, we're sitting here begging them to throw the ball to Isaiah Satania. They might have like 9 packages for him that we haven't seen yet, where it's, we're getting it to him on a reverse. We're doing the tap pass. We're going to throw him a slant. We're going to throw him a fade. Like they might have all this stuff in the works. And so I'm really excited because, we don't, after you play Oklahoma State, there's no more of, we were trying to be vanilla or any of that. They're playing to win. They're playing to win this game. And I think they're going to let it all hang out. And so I think we'll have a much better idea of just what we can expect about this Arkansas offense and just about this Razorback team, man. I'm excited because we're really close. Curtis, we've been talking for so long since, even before August about just kind of, fall camp. Here's what might happen. Here's what could happen. Here's what we don't think is going to happen. it's almost all over. Where after Saturday, we'll at least kind of know some things. I'm excited to know things, Curtis.
Yeah, yeah, you and me both, man. You and me both. And for anyone who wants to follow along, make sure that you get tapped in with us. Get subscribed to our Inside Arkansas YouTube page. The podcast feeds. Make sure wherever you watch them, Spotify, Apple, wherever it's at. Pot of That Nature. Hop on there. Make sure you get subscribed. Follow along. Our Inside Arkansas Live, our daily stream. That's all there. You'll be able to find all of our post game shows, all of our content. We've got daily basketball mailbags. Yeah, we're still talking about hoops around these parts. And hop over to the website, insidearkansas.com. That's a really good resource that I don't think is used well enough, because we do still embrace the written word. There's a lot of written content up there. And you can also find all of our videos and all of our podcasts right at the website. So insidearkansas.com. And again, we're hitting the road bright and early. Sunrise, we're out. We're heading to Stillwater, and we're going to be with the people. And we're going to be there in the stadium, hanging out. If you see us, come say hey. We appreciate that. We enjoy it. I know there's going to be a lot of Razorback fans making the trip. And then after the game, hopefully after a Razorback win, pop over next door to Eskimo Joe's. We're going to be doing our Pot of That Nature post-game show out there. Andrew, myself, and John. And we're really looking forward to it, and hope to see a bunch of people out there. Safe travels to anyone who's going, and good luck to anyone who's watching from home. One play at a time, one game at a time. Let's see if Arkansas can go 1-0 this week. But we're out of here. For Andrew Ellis, this has been Curtis Wilkerson with the Pod of That Nature, and we will catch you guys tomorrow.